and to work to eradicate poisons all over the world.
Wait, I don't think that was in the SNES
I don't think
version.
it was either, but it's just that's funny.
It's a poison disarmament. It's a noble cause.
What's up? Welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike.
My name's Kason.
And today we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
We left off when the party arrived in Vector, which is, well, not so much Vector as just the southern continent, but heading towards Vector, place, which is the capital of the Empire.
The place where all the spotlights were.
Yeah, in the sky. Right?
Shooting out from there.
And one of my favorite shots of the game, the airship just slowly approaching. But you land pretty far south. There's a couple of other towns you can explore a little bit. One of them is Miranda, which I think is to the west. That's where the girl lives for that letter writing quest between the guy at the Veld that we met.
The guy in the Veld.
Injured.
Yeah.
Defective, or a soldier who had defected from the Empire.
Also, interesting note about Miranda, I believe it was General Celeste who conquered Miranda.
Yes. Right? We will definitely talk more about that here in a little bit. Good scene.
Also, wanted to bring up something that was, I could not believe this in the comments. Did you read the people talking about how that crazy old man who wanted you to fix his clock, he secretly was giving you like the time in Zozo so you can set the clock?
Yep.
That, when I first read it, I was like, hey, you guys are crazy, man. You guys are, there's no way that that's true. It is absolutely true.
It just seems way too. There's no way it's a coincidence.
No.
It's just not possible.
And I've heard that they've changed it too, because there was a part where he said, the grass out back is 25 feet tall. Get to it on the double. And the idea is that you're supposed to double 25 to get 50.
Yes, right. Right.
But in newer translations, he just says the grass is 50 feet tall to help make it easier, I guess. Not like anyone would ever make this connection, though. Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's crazy. I couldn't believe that. It's unreal. But that's the kind of thing that these old RPGs, they'd hide little things that everywhere.
And even if nobody ever notices it, especially not on their first playthrough ever, anybody, a single person, it's still cool that it's there.
Yes. There was another comment I read that I thought was really...
there were several.
That was really clever. It's just funny and clever. Yeah. So this is Nam-E. So it's name, but like there's a space between the M and the E. So Nam-E, I think, or something like that.
To the south.
Zozo is my least favorite RPG town, and I never liked its terrible music. Very nice people, though.
Doing that always opposites kind of thing. Right? Yeah, that's funny.
Always tell lies. He told he was doing dialogue like the people of Zozo. So I thought that was clever. I really liked that.
That was fun.
Congratulations, Nam-E, for that great comment.
And somebody else also mentioned, because we were a bit harsh on the use of amnesia in Locke's past with Rachel.
But then they
connected with Terra.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And like,
I hadn't really thought of it that way.
I get that. Like, that's the reason why he might initially have been drawn to her, right? Like, he's so shocked and like, I got to help you because... Well,
and especially when Terra says, I can't remember anything, and Locke's like, he like freaks out, and he's like, you have amnesia? Yeah, and it's like... to meet two people with amnesia in
it's crazy.
Any amount of time in your whole life
meet
is
one person
kind of
with amnesia
incredible.
is crazy
because it like basically doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
almost ever.
Very rare. Anybody in the comments, if you've ever had amnesia, please let us know. I don't think it's very common, but you're probably not alone. There would be at least a few dozen other people out there. But
anyway, so. There's, probably a few things we could talk about with the other towns, but I think we'll skip over that for now.
Okay.
Go straight into Vector.
Okay, good.
The first thing I took note of here was
I do have to mention, because we have played a game called Xenosaga.
Ah, yes.
And when I talked about the word vector a little bit there, it's great because, people who worked on this game worked on that game. And the question is, well, what does vector mean? It's a vector for something. Vector for what? Okay, that's like the idea. What is vector a vector for? Why is it called vector? Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, while we're doing that, might as well throw out the name Gestahl, Gestahl, which is similar to another game we played in the past, Nier. Which
That's right.
Probably some connections with that.
It means like ghost or something like that. Something along the lines of ghost. Yeah. But
there was somebody who was wanting us to like try to talk about that more, and why would they name it that?
It's been in the back of my head this whole playthrough, and I have not yet put my finger on it exactly why it's called Gestahl, other than this would be the idea. The idea that I've come up with, the best I can do, is that the Emperor is resurrecting the demons of the past.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So it's like you dig up ancient Egypt tomb, and oh no, the Scorpion King is going to come out and kill everyone in a dust storm, right? That's more or less what's happening here. Gestahl is mining deep into the earth, or Narsh was mining into the earth, I guess. But Gestahl is discovering these demons and trying to resurrect the past. That's the best I can do.
Gestahl is trying to resurrect the ghosts.
The ghosts of the past.
The War of the Magi. That's what he's trying to do.
Dude, everyone wants you to like go into a movie trailer voicing now.
Yeah, just do the whole podcast like this from now on. Let's see.
That'd be great.
Vector. So we arrive there. I think the first note I took here was that we get a little bit of dialogue about Kefka. I don't know if you saw this. There's an NPC in the pub, and it's only on like the second time you talk to him.
You mean the cafe?
Yes. Yes, sorry.
Very important. Nintendo.
This is
very strict about
this
the
podcast
use of that term.
is for ages.
That's right.
It's for all ages, so we have to call it cafe.
Yeah. K through A.
Yeah. Yes. So it's one of those things where you talk to the NPC, you exhaust their first dialogue, then you talk to them again.
Oh,
they get a different one.
Then I may have missed it if that's the case. But maybe not. Let's
So what he says is all the soldiers at the Magic Research Facility can use magic now, all thanks to that genius Sid, apparently. So they're introducing Sid here, a new character. He is like the head researcher of the Magitech Research Facility that is here in the city, where they're doing their experiments and extracting magic from espers and stuff. But the second time you talk to him, he says, here's another one for you. That Kefka guy, they say he was Sid's first experimental Magitech knight.
I did hear this, yes.
The process hadn't been perfected yet. Kefka ended up with an extraordinary magic power, but it shattered his mind. So
that's a great definition of Kefka, because this is what's crazy. We're getting a little bit of conflicting info. Kefka has extraordinary magical power. We have not seen that. Not
necessarily yet, no.
No. And also, his mind is broken. Yeah, that's
for sure.
That's for dang sure. But this is the first time we're hearing that Kefka is extremely powerful, because as of yet, our fights with him are not. They're more akin to the fights with Ultros.
Right. Yeah, so, a little bit of possible... Well, certainly, giving us a tiny bit of history on him and how he became the way he became. But
he was an experiment. This is some Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII.
Another probably connection to that, which we've seen several already, right? But of course, Celeste was as well. But she came after he did, so it seems the process, whatever it was, might not have been as either intense on the body or mind. She came out with her mind intact. He did not.
Yes. Also, we'll talk about some of their other differences later too, I think.
So, took a note on that, so we get more on him. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm back to this one. So, basically what you're supposed to do here is you are trying to find a way into the castle, or a way into the research facility, I should say. And there's a kind of a man standing behind some boxes. It's towards the right side of the main screen of Vector. And he's like, hey, I'll distract him while you get in there.
And it's just some dude, right? Okay, so isn't he a returner, though? I love
how he does it.
Isn't he a returner?
I don't remember, but I would guess yes.
But he totally knows. He's just like, hey. I think that's pretty magical. I'd say that's pretty cool.
Effing love the animation because he the way he says it like gives this impression that he has like a really good plan and he's gonna like make a distraction, but like all he does is like jump and like go crazy. He just like starts spinning around and like jumping.
Doesn't he pretend that he's got some
he's
weird
like sick
disease
and he
or
like
something?
pukes on their feet or something like that. And then we just like crawl up on a beam like overhead,
just like go
and just kind of go behind him and get inside. But I just thought it was so funny. He's like, okay, I got a plan. Like I'm gonna distract them, use this beam to get in, and he like gets ready, and then he just starts like jumping towards them, like just like acting completely insane.
You'd think because he's been here waiting for a while.
Yeah,
he's like been watching,
waiting for his opportunity.
He's hiding behind the
planning,
boxes,
scheming. Like
I know what I'm gonna do. This is like what my kids do. Every now and then my daughter will be like, she'll shout to my son and be like, distract him, distract daddy whenever I'm playing, being a monster. And then they'll do the funniest things to distract me while one of the kids goes around me and jumps on my back. And it's just like, anybody would see that coming, It's so funny.
Oh, so funny. I was laughing so hard.
Okay.
Like, I think I laughed harder at this than I did at the Ultros 5-minute thing, which I laughed really hard at as well.
That's right. You laughed for about exactly 5 minutes.
Exactly 5-minute laugh. This one had another 30 seconds on it, I guess. But okay, so you get inside. There's not much to describe here other than I really like the designs, like all the designs in Vector, as far as architecture, buildings.
It's cool.
It's awesome. Very industrial.
But exactly. Yeah. But it's also like very industrial and it's ugly in a, it's like, what would you say? It's an unholy amalgamation of a castle and industrial, like coal
steel,
power plants. Yeah. But it's like plates of steel, just like hammered on in different parts of the wall, and like I look at that and I'm just like, what did this look like before? I want to see the older, but it does look super cool in the way that, the art kind of is able to show like what this city's become, right? Like it used to be a thing and it's kind of been, plated over with these like steel plates and this industry and all these power plants and smokestacks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Really
nice.
The castle itself is in the form of a ziggurat. So it's got different levels to it and it looks like an ancient Babylonian ziggurat.
Yeah, kind of like that pyramid shape,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a Mayan pyramid.
Yeah, like those. Which is, I don't know, really cool. Obviously evokes some like ancient religious kind of imagery. It evokes the ghosts of the past, you could say.
Gestahl, there you go. That's why they named it that. So there's not much to say story-wise until you get up to Kefka.
I found my note. Okay, I wrote a rando returner is going to help us get into the research facility.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So the song that plays, Sid's workshop song, as soon as you get into this factory, it plays sort of, I guess, Sid's theme, but this is really the first time you hear it. There was an OC remix like 20 years ago of this song. Do you remember? And it's like that industrial beat.
It's freaking sweet. It's freaking sweet.
It was really good. And now it's been a long time since I've heard it.
Dude, I'm going to find that right now.
We should listen to it. It was my favorite one. And it introduced me to the possibility of industrial as a musical genre.
My gosh, Overclocked Remix is a website that still exists. I know they're on YouTube now, but I didn't.
Right. It was actually really hard because they would do their own things, and if you upload to them, then you can't upload it to your own YouTube channel. So people started just putting stuff on YouTube instead of them. And that YouTube kind of screwed up what they had going because they had a really cool thing going. They were attracting some talented musicians. I used to
come here all the time.
Well, Jeremy Soule did some OC remixes.
He did a Final Fantasy VI OC remix.
Which one?
For oh my gosh. I think it's Dancing Mad.
No
but
way.
It's not like the whole thing. It's just
like a part
certain
of it.
parts.
It's like a 10-minute song.
But it's really good. It's like got a choir and stuff, and it's really, really well done.
He is a very talented musician. There's a Super Mario RPG one too that I absolutely loved.
Okay.
Looking through the window at the stars. That was
I'm not going to get too distracted by looking at OC Remix. We're here to do a podcast.
It's just that one song, Sid's Workshop. It's called Sid's Factory or Sid's Workshop, and it is so fun. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
My childhood, that was one of the themes to my childhood.
Yeah. Okay, so you come across Kefka. at a certain point as you're kind of going through this dungeon. And he's got Shiva and Ifrit there, the two espers. He says, I'm a god. I'm all-powerful. So, again, kind of conflicting with our actual encounters with the guy before. Yeah. But like you said, this dude in the cafe is hinting at this great power that he has, right?
Yes,
I'm a god. Yes. I'm all-powerful. Wee-hee-hee. I'll collect more espers. I'll extract their magic, and then I'll revive the warring triad. This is a new term. We've not heard this word before, this term before, warring triad.
Warring triad. So in my translation, it just says, I will restore the statues.
The statues in the original the original translation, So, don't know much about that yet. We'll learn about that later and talk about it later. But just then keep that term in mind. Warring triad, or the goddess statues, I think they call them in the original translation.
The goddesses, even though they're gods. We'll get into that. There's some funny stuff there. Yeah. Kefka then discards a bunch of used espers down into a trash heap.
Just throws them down.
We kind of follow him down there. It's Ifrit and Shiva.
Yep.
But yeah, they're just killing and just doing away with tons of espers.
Just throwing them away. So you end up going down there and fighting them as well.
Yeah.
I think Ifrit says, I sense a kindred spirit. Shiva says, who are you? You have Rama's power. Wait, we're espers. So you fight them, you prove that you're worthy, which is a very traditional Final Fantasy thing to do. Yes. Going back all the way to the first one, I think, like Bahamut. It's let me see if you're really strong enough to be able to wield my powers. You fight them and prove to them your worth, and then they say, I'll go with you. So that's kind of, what's going on here. So you defeat them, and Ifrit says, Gestahl has captured many more of us. They're all here, being drained of their powers. I, too, suffered my turn in one of the capsules. And Shiva says, when they finish draining us of our powers, they dump us down here to die. We haven't much time left. So they're going to die anyways. They decide to gift themselves as magicite to us. So that's where we get the Shiva and Ifrit magicite. Okay, and so then you make your way up the stairs.
Yep.
You end up meeting Sid. There's a boss fight, I think, before this. You get into the room with the capsules.
Yeah, the tubes, the research tubes.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of espers in all of them. And we meet Sid. This is one of the more interesting Sid incarnations of this series.
Yeah, he is.
He's got a banana yellow suit.
It's like a hazmat something or other.
Maybe right? That's actually I didn't read it that way. Just looking at the sprite art, but that's probably what it is.
That's probably what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, but he's Sid usually in the series is a character who works on airships or is a pilot of some kind.
Yeah.
He's usually associated with the airship. This Sid is not, because Setzer is the airship guy in this game. So Sid is, studying magic and espers and extraction of magic from them and that sort of thing. So he's complicit in all this stuff that the Empire is doing, or at least seemingly so. He says, what are you doing here? What are those? Oh, and then this is where he realizes that you get magicite by killing espers, which I think is an interesting point. All the experiments they've done on these espers, they haven't killed one yet. So
isn't that kind of funny? But here's the thing. They throw these espers down into that trash heap.
Yeah.
And then there's bones there of things that have died. Don't the espers just die?
And turn into magicite?
And they turn into magicite when they die.
My only guess on
confused.
this, I haven't looked this up. I'm sure that there's some kind of
maybe they just took out the trash and they dumped all the magicite, didn't even know.
Or perhaps if they're totally drained of their powers until they're dead, they don't turn into magicite. But I don't know if they've said
we
that.
got Shiva and Ifrit, and they had been drained and thrown
almost,
into the trash
but
heap.
maybe not completely.
I know, but enough.
And so, but that's what I'm saying. Okay. I don't understand the rules behind confusing. When they turn into magicite or not. But it strikes me as strange that, as cruel as the Empire is, and with all this experimentation that they're doing on espers, that they wouldn't have discovered yet that when espers die, they become magicite. I just find that a strange, kind of hard thing to believe. But he's surprised. He's surprised that this happens. So he says, what are those? Pointing at the magicite. Oh, so when espers die, they can leave behind the essence of their powers. The power contained within these stones is far greater than what we could ever hope to extract. I mean, he just knows this just by looking at it. Hundreds of times greater. Interesting. He just...
Fascinating.
Oh my gosh, that's way more powerful. He hasn't even done any like tests on the thing. He just knows it. Now I understand this is about compressing the exposition and stuff. They didn't have a lot of room to exposit on this game. We've already gone over that. It's just kind of funny.
Every now and then it's a little abrupt.
Yeah, it's a little quick that he's reaching these conclusions. He just knows this stuff. But there's a whole bunch of espers in there that give you their magicite there. And Celeste, if she's not in the party, she will arrive here at this time.
Yes, yeah.
She has to be here for the scene. So she says, Professor Sid, and then Sid says, General Celeste, who are these shady characters, your underlings? She says, no. You see, and she's struggling to explain. Sid says, is it true you worked your way in amongst those rebels as a spy? I love this. I think it's a little bit different in the original translation. It's not quite as clear that he's suggesting that she's spying on them.
Okay,
that was part of the plan.
You're right. Because more or less what I just got was Kefka being like, wow, brilliant, good job, Celeste. And then Locke is like, what's going on here? And it is a lot less clear. Yeah. But you do more or less get the same idea by the end of this conversation.
Right.
That Celeste is a betrayer.
So when he hears that, because again, I'll read the line. Is it true you worked your way in amongst those rebels as a spy? Locke is like, what? Celeste? And then Kefka comes in. Oh, I see. Magicite. Excellent work, Sid. So how did you know about magicite? Anyways, Kefka says, General Celeste, we needn't keep up the charade any longer. Bring me those magicite crystals. So he, again, both suggesting that she was sent in on purpose, espionage to be a spy among them. Locke says, Celeste, you tricked us? Celeste says, of course not. Please trust me. If Cyan is in the party, he'll say, I knew she was not to be trusted. Right?
Oh, really?
But he wasn't in my party this time.
No, I don't think mine either.
Kefka laughs. The sweet taste of betrayal. Oh, Celeste, that's so you. And then Celeste is saying, Locke, you've got to believe me, right? And he's like, he doesn't know what to think. Kefka says, now kill them all. Celeste says, Locke, let me protect you for once, and maybe then you'll believe me. What are you going to do? Stop, says Kefka.
Because she does this like crazy magical spell. Yes. The colors of the tint over the screen just kind of starts changing.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly what happens, but she kind of like disappears and Kefka's gone as well. Yep. The two of them just kind of like book it. Like she uses her magic to like get rid of him.
Yep.
And then, but in doing so, the whole like laboratory is like gonna break now. Yeah. So it's like there's this. Is there a timer?
I actually
can't remember if there's a timer. But the idea is it's all breaking. Yeah. We've got to get out, and Sid runs out first, and we just kind of follow him.
Yeah. So I just want to talk for a second about the build up to this scene and stuff like that. Right? Like we've touched on it a little bit, and I've been trying to say how this is kind of a setup for this moment. Right? Celeste not being necessarily very forthwith about her past, not really talking about it. How Locke trusted her without really knowing her, how she doesn't understand why he would do that. But yet at the same time, she wants to believe it's because she could be cared for by somebody, but she doesn't think she deserves it. She was ready to give up on life before this, and he was her like shining star that came into the darkness, or what do we call it? Guiding star.
The evening star.
The evening star that came into the darkness of the dungeon and rescued her, but she's conflicted about the fact that he really likes this other girl and stuff like that. And then to get into this scene, right, where Locke begins to doubt her, and that ray of hope being sort of extinguished.
Yeah, that's right.
Right before her eyes. And the fact that it is something that you can't necessarily blame the party or Locke for doubting her because they didn't know.
No.
They don't know her at all.
Right.
They just decided to trust her because she said she would help them. Right. But like they didn't, well, I guess Cyan didn't. He was like the one guy who like really didn't want to, bring her in. But I like it. I like the execution of it. It gives you as the viewpoint. We were kind of Locke was our viewpoint character for when they met, right? So because he doesn't know, we don't really know about her past, and as you already alluded to, the whole Miranda thing, right? Like,
she's done some stuff that she shouldn't have done.
That she has reason to have felt like she deserved to be executed.
Yeah,
even though she was now trying to stand against what Kefka was doing with poisoning Doma,
right?
And that what they're doing is wrong. She knows firsthand, not just because she found out about the plan to poison Doma, but because she herself conquered Miranda, and she's feeling guilt, a lot of guilt over all this stuff that she's done. And so having Locke doubt her was like a really painful thing. And so she's trying to prove like, no, believe me, like, but then she's gone. She's just not there anymore once it uses this magic. And so, I like it. I think that I've been having some discussions with some of the people in the comments about her, about this character specifically.
Okay.
And I feel like based on all of these things that I've just described leading up to this, that it's been, I think, good enough context for this scene to really work. So I thought it was pretty well executed personally, but...
Something really interesting too is her use of this magical power, something that we hadn't really seen her do before.
Yes.
So it's almost as if we're uncovering her secrets, but her last secret, like the biggest secret, is this special power that she has. Now, generally speaking, were she to be a traitor, she'd be like, haha, you fools, you had no idea. And then she has, oh my gosh, you have all this power, we didn't know it the whole time, and she used it against us. However, she comes in and she uses this special magic power that like it makes her mystery a little bit more intriguing, because it's like, whoa, she hadn't done that up to this point. I didn't know she was capable of that.
Right.
But she's doing it at a time when she's been unveiled as this traitor, but then she does it against Kefka. And it's like, okay, so she still has this mystery, but at the very least, we're able to see her intentions are good. But the mystery is not resolved. We don't know the extent of her powers now. Like, she just gave us a new mystery of like, hey, also I can do this other crazy stuff that even Kefka doesn't know about.
Right.
And Sid Sid's probably knew about it. He's probably the one that gave it to her. But Kefka was sure surprised.
Yeah.
So that adds to her mystery, but we finally get to see, because of where it's directed, what her real intentions are. And that's useful for us. And of course, Locke later on, he's going to try to like talk to her. And I actually think it's very realistic how they treat the relationship between Celeste and Locke after this point.
Yeah.
But for the time being, it seems like she's just gone and maybe dead.
Yeah. I have no idea what happened to her.
Yeah.
And we got to get out because the place is falling apart. So Sid's hacking and coughing. What happened? Oh, no. This is bad. The blast reversed the energy flow in the capsules. We need to get out of here. Quick, this way. Go down an elevator. Takes you down. Oh, what have I done? He says as they're going down.
Sid seems very remorseful.
Yeah. There's no excuse for it, no matter how much Kefka may have threatened me. So he was under threat.
Yeah, of course.
Draining the life energy from espers just to make people stronger. You know, he's all upset at himself.
It's wrong.
You've helped me come to a decision. I'm going to talk to the Emperor and make him realize how foolish this whole war is. So he's going to try to go convince the Emperor to stop doing this stuff. So again, another suggestion here, because we had Leo earlier in the game who spoke with one of the soldiers like, the Emperor wouldn't want you to throw your life away for nothing.
Right. Yeah. So
he's suggesting the Emperor is not this cruel, oppressive, figurehead. And we talked about whether or not, did the Emperor know about Kefka's plan to poison Doma or not? You know, like there's some doubt there, I felt. And now Sid, instead of running away, is going to go talk to the Emperor.
He's going to go to
He
Gestahl.
seemed convinced that there's a man there, not just a monster, who will see reason. So 3 instances now, we've had reasons to assume maybe the Emperor isn't that bad. Maybe it's just this Kefka guy who's sort of doing his own thing, kind of behind the scenes. So then he's like, oh no, it's Kefka, go. And they put us onto this mine cart.
Okay, dude.
fake faux 3D effect.
Now, what did you think about that?
It's pretty bad.
It's cool for its time, but my gosh, every asset looks the same as it's all just coming towards you.
I have a good quote on this.
Yeah, okay, please.
From Yoshinori Kitase about this specific thing.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. This was a throwback for me to Super Mario RPG. Once again, it's probably the 5th time I brought it up in this podcast. They do it really well, though, in Mario RPG. In this game, I don't know. It's still cool. You still get the idea of what's happening, but it's definitely the presentation is not as smooth.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this is the one. He says, from a technical point of view, I'd say our greatest challenge was the 3D rail scene. We used the Super Famicom screen support mode known as Mode 7 and painstakingly illustrated the graphics one dot at a time to create a mock 3D effect.
Wow.
Which is like not how they did it in games like Donkey Kong Country, for instance.
No,
they actually built 3D models, and I think it was the same in Super Mario
RPG did this as well, yeah.
Yeah.
They would render a 3D model and then just put it in as an image.
Yeah, right.
But even though that sounds like an obvious thing to do, until Donkey Kong did it, nobody thought to do that. Especially on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Where it was like, you can have 3D and 2D, you just have to render it as a sprite. They just, for whatever reason, it never occurred to them to do that.
Yeah.
And I think Donkey Kong came out around this time.
It would have been
94, 95?
If not the same year, the year after or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So yeah, in hindsight, they probably should have done that. But
yeah, so they basically painted by hand each sort of frame of animation here of this minecart to make it look like a 3D effect.
That's fine that they did that, but it probably just shouldn't have been as long.
Yeah, it is kind of a long
just kind of takes a while.
And you're really just seeing the same,
yes,
like you said, the same sort of assets just repeated a million times.
Yeah.
Although producing these graphics was a huge undertaking, the results we finally achieved were unfortunately far rougher on the eye than we had originally hoped. So in the end, this section didn't leave anything like the lasting impression we intended for them. So he realizes it didn't come out the way they'd hoped.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, it is a little rough on the eyes. It's you have to really squint at it and be like far.
I was wondering if my screen was having issues. You know, every now and then when it's like your screen shows up and it's like doubling the stuff, and then the pixels are like stuck in one spot, but then still moving on the other side. Mm-hmm. I thought that was happening here for a little while. I was like, something crazy's going on. Yep. But I guess that's how it was supposed to be.
Yep. I don't know. It's kind of cool, I guess.
Pixel Remaster might change it a little bit.
Actually, that's a good point. I don't think I've played up to that point in the Pixel Remaster version. Mm-hmm. Maybe they did do a better... Oh, yeah, they did change it.
This.
So that's the original. Here's the new one. Look at that.
Oh, my gosh. It looks great. It looks beautiful.
So they did change it in the Pixel Remaster, and it's better.
It's way better.
You can actually see what you're supposed to be looking at.
Holy cow.
Wow, that's nice.
Well,
okay. Yeah, I mean, it's more. It looks to me like they've. Well, I don't know. It kind of looks like
the 2.5D
sort of thing.
3D, yeah.
But I can't. Yeah, maybe those are 2D images that they're just.
Do you see how that looks like your screen is like?
It's so jacked. It's so jacked.
No, oh, jeez.
Okay, so yeah, they did fix it in the Pixel Remaster, and it looks pretty good. So you guys answer that.
Very nice.
I don't know. You fight some dudes on the way out of here.
Yeah.
One of the bosses has a rare steel. It takes forever to get it if you bother to do that. Which I did because I'm crazy for some reason. I got to do everything in these games. Okay, so you find Setzer. Setzer meets up with you.
Oh, that's right. And we're going to fly the airship out.
Yeah, he's like, where's Celeste? And Locke is silent, and Setzer's like, huh? And, well, we got to get out of here. We'll worry about it later. And then, Kefka says, crud, what a mess. Hee hee, you're not getting away from me. And there's like these arms that kind of come out from like the castle that like reach up and try to grab us as we're...
It's beautiful. First of all, I do have to mention that this ziggurat, it's in the shape of a ziggurat, which is essentially what the Tower of Babel was supposed to be. It was like a ziggurat. And that's, the hubris of man. And not only was the Tower of Babel built to like reach the gods and pull them down, but that's basically, this thing has arms that are like meant to pull things from the sky down to it, And I love this. This is so good because Kefka activates a weapon on the ziggurat with big arms. It's like he knew that one day the only aircraft in the world would try to escape his base, and he needed a way to capture it. But it still didn't work. Like, what other use would those arms be?
I would say it would be probably for construction purposes.
Oh, like cranes that go picking things up from the ground.
Yeah. Like building the city or the tower
Actually,
itself.
That's pretty good.
I think that would probably be the like practical application of such a device.
No,
but he was like, oh, I'll just use these to try to catch them out of the sky.
So in that case, it makes perfect sense why it did not work. I thought that was pretty funny.
So, you fight a couple bosses, you escape here.
Yeah, you fight the arms from the bridge of the ship. Yeah, very cool. And then you get to see the airship flying around the world map, and that is awesome. That is so cool.
Freaking love that.
Just made me excited to actually ride it around on my own. Yep.
Okay, so after the escape here, they go back to get Terra. So I think Locke just says, like, I'm worried about Terra, and Setzer doesn't even know who Terra is because we went to the opera scene after we had found her like asleep in the bed and talked to Rama.
That's right, yeah.
He's like, I'll explain everything on the way. Terra, the Espers, and the Returners, our whole story. So then they arrive there, and Locke walks up to her and says, Terra, the Magicite. And Terra says, Father, I remember now. I was raised in the Esper world. So now her memory has returned to her. And
she looks like a normal Terra now. She doesn't look like the purple Esper anymore.
Nope. She's back in her human form.
Yeah.
So we get a flashback here as to how Terra was born and her parents and the Esper world and how it was discovered and everything.
Yeah, very cool.
Kind of a longer scene. Her father was Maduin, the Esper. And one day, someone comes up to him, someone's trying to come through the gate. And he's like, who is this? And it's a woman who's injured or something, and he decides to like care for her rather than like let her die or kick her out or whatever. So he brings her in. There's an elder of the Espers who says there's an ominous air about this evening.
Yes, indeed.
Right. So,
well, they talk about the air a lot, actually, and particularly when that gate opens or closes, the wind blows, the wind howls. I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Okay. So upon finding her, her name is Madeline. Maduin and Madeline. Maduin the father, Madeline the mother.
Madeline. Well, in mine, it's Madonna.
Madonna. Oh, Madonna. Maybe they changed that for the new version of the game. Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Or for the updated script for the Game Boy Advance script.
Okay.
Yeah, Maduin and Madonna. But here it says Madeline, which is weird. I like Madonna better because it's Maduin and Madeline sound almost exactly the same.
They do. It almost sounds like you said one with a bit of a...
Yeah, like an accent or something.
Yeah, an accent. That's a good way to put it.
Anyway.
So Madonna...
Yeah.
I guess just because of the singer Madonna, they didn't want... But Madonna has been used for a very long time, and it has specific meanings that I will...
I don't know how you get Madeline instead of Madonna, but at the same time,
I do. It's because of the reference. It's a similarity in the reference, right?
For Madeline? Or?
Yes. Okay. So I can explain
what
this.
Who Madeline is supposed to be.
Yes. So the first thing I want to say is that this area looks really cool. It's dark though, right? It's like nighttime.
Yes.
The idea is that the Espers live in the world of night, or you could say the world of twilight, right? Sure. They live in it's just a separate place. It's just the opposite of wherever we are, or it's a place that is probably perpetually dark and doesn't have like a sun, right? Yeah. So there's things you can infer from that. But also the theme song, and this was brought up by somebody in the comment section, the theme song for the Espers is 7 beats per measure, which is like really weird. But that's a really good choice. If you're going to try to convey like foreign, otherworldly feelingness, having a beats per measure that is like
a time signature.
And a time signature
that's not
that's unusual.
That you're not used to. Trying to follow the beat can be a little bit challenging because everyone's used to a 4/4.
4/4/4, right? And we can tolerate 3/4, but it's very rare to do like a 7/8 or whatever this is.
Right.
It's very strange. So that's super cool. Then we've got Madonna and Maduin. So Madonna, and I will talk about Madeline here in a minute. Madonna is a reference to the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? So this woman is Terra's mother. Terra's father is an Esper, right? And the Espers are sort of godly angel-ish type creatures, demons, sort of. But they're spiritual. Well, how would you even put it? They're higher beings. We'll put it that way. Yeah. Higher beings. So a human and a higher being had a child that's going to save the world, right? Okay. Well, that's Mary's story, right? So there's a connection, obviously. But Madonna also means something else that's really interesting, really good to the Japanese, and I'm surprised that they changed it. So take everything I say next with a grain of salt, because I'll talk about Madeline here in a sec. I already mentioned that the word for magic earlier on is mado.
Yes.
Right? Madou is how you would anglicize it, I guess. So when a Japanese person is talking, you're hearing mado all throughout the game. It's just mado this, mado that, madoshi is like a sorcerer. Well, then there's a name Madonna. Madonna it's not Madonna, it's Madonna, but still, it would elicit some type of ideas of magic for a couple of reasons. So if you look at the definition of Mado in a dictionary, Mado has two readings. First off, it can mean magic. And I didn't mention the second meaning because it wasn't relevant until now. Now I think Mado is very relevant, except that they changed it to Madeline. I'll get into that. But the first definition, okay, there's three definitions for the second section of definitions for the word Mado, still very commonly used. The first one is to be lost or to lose your bearings. The second is to be puzzled, perplexed, or confused. And third, Mado can mean to be tempted or seduced. So, Madonna, the name, I'm connecting with Mado, and people are going to give me crap for this, but I think that I thought there was a connection here. So I'm just throwing it out there now. Madonna is Madonna is seduced by the Mado Sky, the user of magic. Anyways, it's kind of because we get that scene, right?
Well, yeah,
where what's his name? Maduin is like, don't go, we could be together. And he's like dancing around her. And I'm just like, she is being seduced. And that's what the word Mado means in its second alternate, like a different kanji for the ma, but it's still similar. Instead of magic for the ma, it's this other kanji. So I think that that's not unintentional. I would say that there's still a connection. I still think there's a connection, and that would be why they chose the name Madonna.
Well, then how could you get Madeline?
Okay. Now let's move on. And this is just me because I didn't realize that this changed. I'll just go top of my head. Madeline is Magdalene.
Oh, okay.
So it means the woman from Magdala, right?
Yes.
So Mary Magdalene. Now they're still referencing the Bible here, still.
Yeah.
However, Mary Magdalene is very different from Mary, the mother of Jesus. Do not confuse the two. They are not the same person. I actually would, and this is so funny because I was actually identifying Celeste more with Mary Magdalene. Anyways, there's, because this woman here, Madonna or Madeline, is clearly being shown to be Mary in that sense, Mary, the mother of Jesus. So Madeline still has the connection with Mary. That's all I got, actually. Okay. That's all I got.
I like Madonna better based on what you said.
I do too, because it connects with the Japanese, not perfectly, but close enough to where there's just a fascinating connection here with the Japanese. I absolutely love it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot better, personally. Okay. So
I love this too, because my next note says, well, in comparison to Edgar, Maduin has got mad game. Dude, his game is just like a 10, right? He's got the dance, he controls the wind, they become stars, right? It's just like this. He's like, look what I can do for you, you know?
Have you seen the Shaquille O'Neal meme? Where
I don't know, maybe.
It's like, I owe you an apology. I wasn't familiar with your game.
That's pretty good.
Christian, it's Shaq. I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game and how you travel.
Man, you're a casual.
I tell you what, dude, that's Maduin right here. Because I was even, as she was leaving, because I haven't played this game in a while, I was like, she doesn't leave. Like, how's he going to, how does he get her to stay, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how, man, he's got game. That's how he gets her to stay. And what is it? Oh, but it doesn't have to be that way. Humans are separate. Yes, but how do we know that we have to be separate unless we give love a chance.
Give it a chance.
Give it a
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good.
Good stuff. So, yeah, he decides to bring her back.
There might be some Phantom of the Opera vibes with that too, by the way.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Somebody else had brought up Phantom of the Opera just with the use of the organ and the way that it's the specific sound for the MIDI within this game of the organ, and especially at the very beginning of the game when it's playing that, what I equated to the Thus Spake Zarathustra, that track.
Yes.
It's like a mix between that song and the Phantom of the Opera organ, right? And this game, of course, taking so much borrowing so much from the opera scene.
Yeah.
I would say that there's something there probably.
Definitely could be. It takes her back. She wakes up. Are you an Esper?
Yep.
What's that pendant around your neck? He says, I'll give it to you, a charm from the Esper world. She says,
right.
The Esper world? So that's where I ended up. Madeline says, everyone is at a loss as to how you, a human, could have made it into our world.
I also do have to bring up one thing. Maduin, his name is Maduin in the English, but in the Japanese it's just Madin.
Oh.
So I actually didn't have much to say about his name because I have no idea what that means.
What it
It's
means.
still Ma. It's still Ma.
Yeah, right.
But it's not Mado, so I didn't go along with it.
She says, you're the one who saved me, right? My name is Madeline, or Madonna. I was sick of living in the human world. It's nothing but a vortex of greed and hate. So I wandered out into the storm, and before I knew it, I was here. She says, they say that, Madeline says, they say that humans and espers can't coexist. And Madeline says, so you don't want me here, right? He says, no, I'm just not sure. And she says, I'll return to my own world tomorrow.
But she doesn't like her world.
No,
she
she
thinks
hates
humans are kind of like full of crap.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about the real world, too.
Oh, dear. Oh, jeez.
Don't like people that much.
You should find a gate, and I'm sure there's a gate somewhere in the
Look for a
mountains.
gate.
Yeah.
Madeline says, all right, someone can show you the way back. And that's kind of like the next day.
Yeah.
Madeline flees. The human already left, says the elder. I
She
wonder if
already
she'll
made it
be
to the
all right
gate.
without a guide. So that's where he goes after. And like you have that scene
Yeah.
where we can't know if espers and humans can coexist unless we try it for ourselves. And they do this in a really, I felt, very sort of classy and artistic way.
Oh, to show the child. And
Yes.
I actually liked it too.
I
liked
really
it a lot.
liked it. So,
Yeah.
they kind of both turn into the sort of shining light
Yes. So
that we've used for like save points or
Yeah,
things
yeah.
of that nature, right? And they sort of dance around each other and come together.
And then go off
And
screen.
then- they go off screen and
Yeah.
then just the
And
two
then-
lights kind of come down and combine.
Yeah. And then a baby shows
And
up.
it's a little baby,
So,
yeah.
because this is so cool because we've been talking for this whole podcast basically about the abstraction
Yeah.
of
It's a really
part of the game.
abstract way.
Yeah, we just took the abstraction. We just inceptioned the abstraction. We're like an extra layer underneath. It's even
Yeah.
more deeper into the abstract. But I thought it was really cool because they could have really kind of taken a while and shown us this whole love story that really just like this is the
Wasn't
baby.
necessary.
Like, we just need to know this is where Terra comes from,
Yes,
right?
right.
These characters, anyways, we'll talk more about them later. But we just needed to get this point of the story, right? And so, boom, the little baby's born, and that's Terra.
Yeah. And then you just kind of see the text for their voices off screen, so to speak.
Yes, yes.
I've chosen a name for her, says Madeline. And Madonna
Yes.
says, what is it? And he says, Terra. Isn't it beautiful? Then we
Sure
get
is.
2 years later.
Tina.
Yeah, Tina. 2 years later, humans, the nexus between the worlds has opened again.
Yes, but is there a line about wind?
Yeah, so it says
Yeah.
the storm is just like the one 2 years ago, but this is different from the time Madonna came here. This time the
Yes.
army is coming seeking our magical powers.
Yep.
There's no good, retreat to the elder's house.
So we've got, once again, the wind is what foretells the coming
You brought that up earlier,
devastation.
yeah.
And we're going to bring this up again with the gate and stuff because, once again, Fujin and Raijin, the gods of the wind and thunder, are there they're present at when scary
Things
bad
happen.
things happen, right? It's in the weather. You can read it in the skies.
Yeah.
And something that is
Which is a callback to like the opening
the very beginning. Yeah.
title screen.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, we'll get
About
to
the
it.
wind?
We'll get to it later. Yeah, but just know the wind is blowing just like it was 2 years ago. The wind kind of is it serves as a prophecy that foretells of the coming devastation.
Omen.
Yes, it is an omen.
So Gestahl comes in. I've finally found it. After all that time spent decoding the secrets of those ancient texts, now it's time to reap the rewards. Grab them. Riches to any man who captures an Esper, go. So they all go in trying to grab him. Madonna says, Terra's all right, because Madeline would kind of come in there. And then there's another NPC who gets pissed. It's like, we should have never, it won't be long before the humans make it here. The elder says, we've no choice. We must do what we've been avoiding. And he says, you mean the magic barrier? Madeline says that. Elder says, I'll create a tempest to sweep all the invaders out of our realm. Then I'll seal the gate. Even among Espers, the power to create a magical seal is limited to a single bloodline. I am the last of that line.
Yeah, that's right.
And Madonna says, but at your age, and the elder says, I may not survive. And without me, you'll never be able to open the gate. So it's going to be closed forever this time.
Yeah, she's like, good riddance.
Yeah, right.
She doesn't want to go back.
And so he leaves to go do that. We have no other choice. I've decided or whatever. And there's another Esper there who says, this is all because of that human woman. Like, it's her fault.
Yeah.
And Madeline's like, nonsense. And he says,
But she
could have led them here for all we know. And he says,
two years ago.
Yeah. And then the Esper says, no, she's one of them. It'll only be a matter of time before she decides she wants our power too. And Madonna then like runs off with the baby.
Yeah, she books it.
Sort of like crying, and Madeline's like, oh no.
Yeah, he's upset.
And she took Terra and they left. And so the elder's out there like trying to cast the spell. And he's like, where are they going? They went through, the little tunnel there towards the gate. It's already too late. I've begun activating the seal. You won't be able to return. Madeline says, I don't care. And so all the soldiers are being pushed out. Gestahl's being pushed out. Madonna and the baby and everyone's getting pushed out. Madeline's trying to pull them back in. Madonna says, I'm not like them. He says, I know. She says, thank you. So he believed in her. He says, will you come back home with me? She says, yes, of course. But then the baby gets swept out. No, Terra. And so they all get swept out with her.
Yep, they all go out the gate.
There are several Espers who got swept out that they then took back to Vector.
To Sid's.
Yeah, so this is
factory.
Rama and
that's right.
Ifrit and all of the Espers that we had now as Magicite, right? They were the ones who got swept out of the place before it was sealed shut.
Now, I do have to say, this is a really good scene. I loved it. It was kind of comical when Terra, the little baby Terra, just like flies out because she kind of like bounces on something first.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of the beginning of Kung Pao.
Just rolling the baby down the hill. Blah, blah, blah.
That scene in that movie is so funny.
It's one of the funniest things.
Okay.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Hilarious. but, I don't fault them. It's pixel art. You got to have the baby go through the tunnel somehow. That's how they did it.
And so Gestahl is outside the gate now, and he's looking at Madonna, a human woman. Whose child is this? He picks it up.
That's right.
And she's like, leave my daughter alone. And
but she's kind of jacked, right? She can't do much. And then
she's hurt or injured.
Maduin is there too, but he's basically completely
unconscious.
Unconscious,
Your daughter? Then she must be a half human, half Esper. How fascinating. Wahaha. Looks like my dreams of building an empire may come true sooner than I'd imagined. She's saying no, and he's like, quiet.
Yeah.
And he basically kills her. And this world will be mine to rule, he says, and he's laughing. So then we kind of come back out of that scene, and Terra's remembering her father.
I don't know the line for your translation, but Gestahl, when everything gets foiled, and he's like, when Maduin is kind of blowing the wind and forcing everyone back out through the tunnel. He, in the translation I played, he said, "Oh no! Just when we were in reach of a veritable bonanza."
Yes.
Okay,
that's a crazy line of dialogue for a game made for kids.
A veritable bonanza.
A veritable bonanza.
Okay.
And what does he say in this version? Let me look.
What does he say? It's before.
No, just when the ultimate treasure was within my grasp.
There you go. Yes,
That's a lot
that makes
better.
sense.
That's a
Way
lot
better than
freaking better.
Veritable Bonanza.
Veritable
Oh my gosh,
Bonanza.
dude. That was so dumb.
This is why I'm not a Woolsey fan. I know there are a lot of Ted Woolsey fans out there. They grew up with these games, and there's a charm to his Woolseyisms, his little things like this that he does that are quirky and weird.
If that line were delivered by Kefka, I'd be like, whatever.
Sure,
it's
that might
weird,
work
but
better.
whatever. But Gestahl has never talked like this that we've known, right?
Yeah.
That's anyways. That was mostly within that character. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a weird line. There's no doubt about it. Anyways, good scene overall. Terra's remembering her father.
Yep.
Now,
And she has his Magicite then.
yes, I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah, very
is that
interesting.
It was one of the Magicite we just got from the
lab, right?
research facility
Yeah.
that were in the tubes. So her father was there. And he just died and gave us his Magicite.
Like
Madeline
willingly, right?
is there in the inventory. That's not the
pretty
type
good.
of detail that I think I realized the first time I played the game.
Yeah.
But as I was looking at this, I was like, oh, dang, like we have Madeline. We're like,
That's pretty cool.
that's kind of like heartbreaking and
It is
tough to like.
It's difficult, but also touching in the same way, where it's like he's still there to
With
help his
her.
child.
Sure, yeah.
But also, we didn't even know it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Very cool. Also, I can't get it. Every time you say Madeline now, I think you're saying Madeline, but
Madeline, but
with,
just in another an accent. Of some
an
kind.
accent. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like.
I can't
Madeline
unhear
as a-
that.
So she says, "I'm the daughter of an Esper and a human. That's why I have these abilities. But I should be okay now. I can control this power as long as I only use it in short bursts." So this gives you unlock kind of a new battle ability for her, which is morph, where she can temporarily transform into that form and be a little stronger.
Esper. Yeah.
I don't use it that much because the Magicite powers themselves are so strong.
That's true.
There's a certain point where magic becomes so good in the game that like the individual abilities that distinguish each character from the other, tools for Edgar, the morph ability for Terra, like these things. It's just, you don't need it. Like,
You just don't need it
You can
as
just
much,
wipe out people with magic. And this is where it starts to happen because now you're getting a lot of magic.
You're getting more,
You're
yeah.
beginning to unlock a lot of powers and magic spells and things like that. And, possibly even boosting your stats while doing so and leveling up. So this is kind of the point where magic starts, and I'm not saying it happens right here, but it begins to sort of overtake some of the other like unique abilities of the characters. But it's pretty cool still that like that's a battle ability you have now is morph, where she can turn into that sort of purple form and fight. Edgar says Gestahl already knew the secret of the Esper's power back then. And then Locke says those Espers in the research facility must have been the ones they grabbed that day. And Celeste's power came at the expense of one of them. So draining them. Right?
Yeah.
So they're now, I mean, Bannon already sort of hinted at that, but now we have confirmation. When we know, we have like a connection to these Espers. Now we know that they've been trained, and that's how Kefka and Celeste were made, was through the sacrifice of these beings, right?
Yep.
Sabin says the Empire won't get away with this. I'll hit that Emperor with a blitz or two.
That is how Saban talks.
That's how he talks.
Gotta hit him with a blitz.
Terra says, how are things in Narsh? Locke says, maybe we should go back and see. Setzer says, the airship's ready to go. Come on, let's go. And then, by all means, take the turn at the wheel, and this is where you can start flying it. And you get the tutorial on the buttons and how to do it. You can fly around and do all kinds of stuff.
So cool, man.
And,
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. It is so
time
fun.
to do side quests. It's time to explore and go to all the places you haven't been before and do the little side quest with the girl and the guy that back and forth
and
to
just
each
fly
other.
your ship back and forth like 10 times. Yeah.
And, anyway, I actually don't think I've fully completed that quest yet, but I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
Back and forth, and they're kind of just...
I don't think I've completed it either.
He keeps sending her... Well, it's actually not...
Because he's still in bed, injured.
Yeah,
so I'm
he'll
like, okay.
hint at what he
at some
wishes
point,
he can do.
Yes.
And then we
and
fly
then we
there
go send
and go
it.
do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And she's so happy. And then we go back and he says, oh, I wish I was well enough to do that. And then you go back there and do it. And she's like,
so
I'm so
funny.
glad he's alive.
I love it.
So, Anyway, you can do the auction house now where you can get 2 more espers.
Ooh, I know I got one.
Zone Seek and...
Did you see the chocobo? There was a chocobo.
Oh, yeah. You can't actually win that. There's always a guy who outbids you for that.
And it was like, it was an insane amount of money that he put up for that chocobo because his kid was like, I want a chocobo.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
What else did I do? There was some other thing I did on the side before I moved forward with the story. But you're supposed to go back to Narsh. So you head back there, and we got Bannon saying, oh, you're here. The people of Narsh have finally decided to fight the Empire. How do things go in Vector? And Arvis says, I see. We've been trying to work out a plan to make use of Narsh's resources and Fagaro's machinery, but we just don't have enough troops to storm the Empire. Bannon says, we have to open the sealed gate. So now the plan at first was to use her to communicate with the frozen Esper. Now we got to use Terra to open the gate to the Esper world and get their help. Yeah,
which as soon as he says it, it's just like, this isn't
going to end well.
A good idea.
This is not going to end well, bro.
It's like, oh, it's our only chance. It's the only, and it's like, okay, I get it. Anyways, and it's so funny. It's interesting how quickly Terra just kind of agrees to it too, because it's like this isn't right. The gate was closed for a reason. This probably shouldn't happen. But then Terra's like, yeah, I guess I'm the only one. I'll do it.
But it's because she's the proof that Espers and humans can coexist.
And she says that herself. Yeah.
And so she's like, as hard as it might be to believe that they would do something, as much as we're sitting here going, it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Especially since we know what happens. But
she is that star of hope.
The living proof, the ray of hope that there can be coexistence between these two races that have been separated and that fought 1,000 years ago or whatever.
This is cool. So this would put her as something along the lines of Morning Star in terms of this, which is super cool because back in the ancient days, in Europe and elsewhere, it was the star Venus. Like there were gates. There was the gates at the horizon. And the angel or the goddess of Venus was usually a younger woman, would have to open those gates so that the sun could come up every morning, right? But the Venus was the angel at the gate, right? That was there to open the gate. But Venus is also the morning star. That's
pretty much what
I just think that's super cool.
Yeah, I think that works totally.
I've got this other note here. Only one person can help the humans establish a bond between them and the Espers. Terra makes an atonement with the Espers on behalf of the humans. She becomes the great intercessor, the humans' advocate with the council of higher beings, like her father. Yep. I think it's wonderful.
Definitely some biblical references there that could be drawn.
They're becoming more apparent. It was very muddied earlier on in the game, but it's becoming more apparent kind of how the archetypes are going to fit in to the story. Right. And then in Narsh, did the Lone Wolf pickpocket show up?
Where you go, is where you get Mog, right? In your party.
So that was really good. Mog just kills that dude. The Lone Wolf is over on the edge, and Mog just pushes him off the edge. Right?
He's holding Mog, and then he throws him off. They both fall off.
They both fall to the side.
You choose who to save because he has the golden hairpin that was in the treasure chest.
Yes, and then Mog
joins your party.
So you save Mog, and then the guy just falls.
I thought so.
I thought Mog did a thing.
Let me look that up
to make him fall.
Let me see.
Or did Mog just look at the guy and the guy fell? Maybe I just assumed that Mog had done it with his own special powers, his own Moogle powers.
Here we go. He just jumps.
Yes. No. Oh, then take this.
If that's how it's going to be, then just take this.
Wait, the Lone Wolf says that?
Jumps off the edge.
Oh, I thought Mog said that. I thought Mog said take this.
No.
Because it didn't make sense that the Lone Wolf says that.
If that's how it's going to be, then take this. If he just jumps to his death.
Wow. Well, that's one way to punish someone else.
Whether you're Lone Wolf or you're Andrew Ryan. I'll show you.
A man chooses. All right. Well, good for him, I guess. He took his fate into his own hands at the last moment.
Yep. Man chooses slave obeys. That's what he should have said. Yeah, I'm gonna mod this game where the Lone Wolf, his final words are a man chooses slave obeys.
That would be pretty good.
He just jumps off the cliff and kills himself.
That'd be great.
That's always been sort of like a project at the back of my mind that for
To,
some
like,
reason
mod,
I've wanted to do.
Put a
is
bunch
to
of memes into games.
Well, no, but to rewrite the script of Final Fantasy VI just as
okay.
like a writing project.
the whole thing.
Just in my own voice in a way that I would like to see the characters talk and
make
stuff.
that a thing. People should do that.
I mean, yeah.
in general.
I was starting that project a little bit back when
It's a big project,
Back
man.
when we lived in what was that apartment we lived in? Where we're
Bountiful
all,
Court?
Brownstone? Six guys in 2
Bountiful
rooms.
Court? Yes, that was
Three
great.
guys, 2 rooms.
That was something else, man. Those were the
Yeah,
days.
so when we were living there, I was just starting to learn how to do that, like change the text. I did it for other games like Chrono Trigger a little bit too, but this is total tangent, but one kind of, out there sort of like dream project after I've finished writing my own book and like done all these other things that are more important and higher priority was I'm going to rewrite the Final Fantasy VI script. This is not something I would necessarily release or try to be like, hey,
make
this
money
is
off of
a more accurate. This is just purely the way I want to read the text of Final Fantasy VI when I play it, kind of a thing, right? Totally a personal project. But now I'm totally going to throw that in there. A man chooses slave obeys as the wolf jumps off. I'm going to totally do it someday. Okay. So
I've just next place I went. I mean, I did go a few other fun places. Just visited the old cities and stuff. But is the Gestahl base? Over by the bridge.
Imperial base.
Okay,
that's
good.
the next, and you got to go through the cave, the sealed gate. There's like a whole.
And there's no soldiers at all.
No,
the whole place is basically deserted.
Yeah. Which is, it's like crazy. It's like, okay, what the heck? So, but they're making their way to where the sealed gate is, which is, you got to go through this cave first. You come out on the other side. Terra quickly to the gate because Kefka is coming.
Yes. Right? Once again, as soon as we see that gate, the wind is howling and you hear it. And then outside, the lightning is striking, the storms. We don't get to see this much in the game ever since that opening intro.
Yeah.
Right? But now we're looking up and out, right, onto the horizon. And it is lightning and wind, right? And this is something, and why, as I mentioned, Fujin and Raijin are the gods of the wind and the thunder.
Yeah.
But this is something that Shakespeare used to do really well in his plays. Is he would connect the weather to whatever was happening on the ground. Yeah. And, it's a common thing. I guess it's kind of like a cliche thing in movies nowadays like, for the lightning to strike when a villain reveals his secret plan or whatever. Sure, yeah. But there's meaning there, though. It's not just that it looks cool. Because anytime you're like, oh, yeah, that looks sweet, just ask yourself, why does it look sweet? Right, because it's merging the heavens with earth. It's merging, the realm of the abstract and meaning, and the gods and all that stuff, and it's merging that with the earth, saying that whatever's happening down here, a similar thing above, is happening up there.
So below, or whatever the saying is. Yeah, which
so
is Kybalion. Is that Kybalion?
That's the reason. Kybalion has that, but it's older. It's Hermetic. Yeah, it's ancient Hermetic.
Right. So. I do like that as a connection. The sky here at the sealed gate,
and it looks really cool.
Same sky as the title screen.
Yes, basically. Yep.
Purple, lightning and clouds and wind.
You can almost hear the organ just burr, burr.
Yep.
Like something's gonna happen, man.
So Kefka shows up, just like the Emperor said. Give them Terra, and they'll open the gate for us.
Yep.
And they're like, what? So Kefka says, in other words, you've been playing into our hands all along. I have no business with you. I'm here to open the way to my promised glory. You better think again, Kefka, they say. And then, oh dear, you want to fight, don't you? This is just dreadful. We have to keep Kefka busy until Terra slips through the gate. So you fight him. You don't really fight, though. It's just kind of a cutscene, really.
It's a short,
Yeah, you just
it's a short thing. It goes to the battle screen, though.
They should have said, let's distract him and jump and peek down his shoes.
It would have worked.
That's what they should have done. Give Terra time. We got to buy time. I learned this from a guy back in Vector. It totally works.
That's right. It's just well thought through plan. That's funny, dude.
Anyway, so while you're fighting him, the door starts opening.
Yes.
And she says, Espers, heed my call. And Kev says, it's open, it's open. He's freaking out in a way that's even surprising for him. It's, I think, so in this version, he says, I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
But I actually like the SNES version better. I don't know if you copied that down. I think he says something, I feel so anxious, I think is what he says.
Yes, it was anxiety. Exactly.
I like that a lot better because this guy who is so unhinged right? Who seems to be unfazed.
Yep, I feel so anxious. That's it.
In the face of this, like that guy feels anxiety, and he's afraid himself. Which
Well,
is
the next one, he says,
really,
something's coming.
yeah.
Yeah, with like 3 exclamation points.
I feel like using that character to do that actually makes
pretty good.
it feel more crazy, like more of a big, scary moment.
I think that's right.
And the destruction that follows it feels more powerful too, because even Kefka was like, maybe having second thoughts as in I shouldn't do it, but just maybe I'm not ready for what's coming the way.
Or maybe I didn't want to be here when it happened.
Yeah.
Right?
So like this is nuts, and even Kefka's afraid. I really, really liked that line, and I like the SNES line better.
Yeah, it's good.
Something's coming this way. Oh, such frightful energy, he says. Gwah! And he gets like thrown away, and all the party are like Terra, and like all these espers are just like flooding
Tons,
out.
and you're seeing like the battle images of the espers, like the big like dragon forms, just going right by the camera, and the wind's blowing, everything's crazy. Then the gate, kind of like a bunch of like boulders fall and onto the gate, right?
Yep.
And in the
Block
shape of
it
a
up.
skull, basically,
And a skull face,
then block it up, right?
Yep. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But basically, when you come to, it's like they've just wreaked havoc on the Earth.
They have,
and in particular,
specifically
the Vector itself, the capital. But
yeah, that city is jacked horribly.
yeah, so you go back through the Imperial base. Party says, "What happened?" The espers all flew off together. The Imperials ran off too, as if they were afraid of something. Which way did they go? Towards
Vector,
the Imperial capital, Vector.
It is a vector for
So
for espers at the moment.
sure, there you go. You're back on the airship heading that way. We're almost a Vector, says Setzer. Huh? What's that? What's wrong, Terra? I can feel them. They're getting closer. You can feel what? There, a flash. What's that? It couldn't be the espers. They've gone this way. Watch out! And they're like flying past the airship.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is where the airship goes down.
Yeah, the airship. They hit the airship, and we start crashing.
It crashes. So
it goes
right
into
when
like
you
a
get the
first-person
airship,
view. I know,
they
dude.
take it away from
That's
you.
what I wrote, man. Like, it had only just begun. I'd visited a few places, but I didn't go everywhere I wanted to go.
Right.
Ugh.
And they take it away from you.
Yeah.
And give you a tease of that sweet airship, and then they take it away. So yeah, they head back to Vector, and it's like on fire, and all the
jacked.
returners are there, like
And Narsh soldiers,
yeah,
right? Because that was the plan. I think the plan was like, hey, we're going to attack on one front, and you go get the espers, and they'll attack on the other front, and that's the only way we can make this work.
But then what happened is they arrived there and it was already like
And
that.
it was already jacked, yeah. And all the Imperial soldiers, they're just like, they've lost the will to fight. They're just like, we are so devastated. Like, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, it was like way too much for them to handle.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like, okay, we got to go talk to Gestahl here, and like there's I think a sentry who comes out and says the Emperor's been waiting for you or something.
That's right. Yeah.
So you go in there and you're going to have like a dinner, and you're going to kind of discuss the next step, negotiations, peace talk, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what this is.
So,
but before we do that, though,
Yes.
he wants us to go talk to his soldiers.
yeah, there's an interesting mini game that they do here.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Did you?
I talked to a lot.
How many? Because there's 24 in total. Did you get them all, or did you?
No, if there's 24, I didn't. I probably got 19 or 20 though. I probably got
pretty close.
a decent amount, enough to where I got some rewards.
Yeah,
like at the end.
Yeah, so the rewards change based on how many you talk to and the responses you give during.
There must be a room I missed then.
It's really hard to do. Like, it's not easy to get all of them because the time is like barely enough.
I know, it's like a minute and a half.
I think
2
I think
minutes?
it's 4 minutes or something.
Oh, is it 4? Okay.
But especially if you talk to Kefka in the prison, he talks for so long.
I did. I think I did. I did eventually.
If you do talk to him in there, like, you're not gonna get them all. Basically.
Okay.
So like his dialogue goes on for so long that it takes way too much time. There's no way you're getting everybody.
Well, and there's a lot of soldiers that just want to fight you. They don't.
Yeah,
they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, and you
just kill them,
fight them. Beat
this
them
is like the idea of like everybody has to agree, otherwise, so we end up becoming the executioner for all the dissidents of the empire, that still want long live the empire. It's like, okay, you die, and then are you good? You still want to fight? Okay, no, right answer, and then we keep going.
I like to read that as They just try. They attack us instead of us attacking them.
I know.
And then
but
we just beat them up.
The result is the
we
same.
Sit them down and they go to sleep.
It's the Greedo shot first kind of thing, where it's
right.
like, oh, we'd like to think of it as Han Solo didn't just murder that guy, but
It pretty much was.
he kind of
in that
basically
case,
that's
in
what
that
he was
case,
doing.
that's exactly what he did, and that's
yeah.
aligned with the character. But
Right.
we won't get into that argument today.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
So Kefka was in prison for war crimes.
Yes.
And depending on who you talk to, you get concessions, right? There's certain troops will pull out of different cities, and
Yes.
you'll get, I think, items and stuff. But
Yes.
yeah.
So this can go several different ways depending on what you say in the conversation, how many guys you talk to, things like that, and it'll change a little bit. Like they'll take soldiers out of like South Figaro. You can ask for that.
I don't think I got that. I can't remember what I did get though.
And then there's items. There's items that you can only get by doing this exactly right or whatever. But let's get into the discussion itself. So, Gestahl, I've lost my will to fight. And Sid says the Emperor's had a change of heart. So Sid said he was going to go talk to Gestahl and convince him.
Yes.
And it seems he's done that.
He has succeeded.
So Sid says the Espers came to save their friends. When they learned that none of them were alive, they ravaged the entire city. I'll never forget their shrieks of rage. So the Espers went there first, just looking for the ones that never made it back.
Right, of course.
Who had fallen out. And when they found them all
they were
dead, they were like,
not
okay,
happy.
Fetch you guys. Can't blame them. Soldier says, we're hanging up our weapons for good. The war is over. Gestahl says, the power of those Espers, I had no idea. They'll destroy the entire world if we don't do something. We're utterly helpless against them. We must find a way to calm their rage.
So first order of business, imprisoning Kefka is a thing. I'm thinking about this, though. I would say first order of business is the Emperor has to step down, right? That should be the very first thing that you if you're talking about anything at all, it's that you're longer
not the Emperor
in
anymore.
charge, right? But I think of the end of World War II and Japan in particular, where the Emperor did not have to step down. In fact, he reigned for 50 more years after that. And I wonder if there's a connection there with this, where it's like, put the generals in prison, but don't put the emperor in prison, right? Because that's more or less what happened in Japan after the war.
Interesting.
But I personally would say, hey, the emperor's got to go.
Yep.
Now, the reason why the Allied forces did not force the Japanese emperor to step down was because of how important he was culturally.
Yeah, right.
America did not want it to seem like Japan was going to lose their culture. It's like, no, we just want your military to not do that anymore. But the culture is strong and vibrant and beautiful and stay like that. Like the United States military purposefully did not bomb certain cities like Kyoto or Nara, at least not as much as places like Tokyo or Osaka, because those were the cultural heritage sites, right? In fact, Kyoto was presented as one of the places where the atomic bomb was going to be dropped. And I can't remember who it was. It might have been MacArthur himself who said, no. If this war is going to end, because it was obvious that America was going to win, if this war is going to end, we need to make sure that we don't hit their important cultural targets, because we need to convince them that we aren't. Otherwise, we'll have rebellion after rebellion within Japan, right? So by leaving the emperor there and leaving a lot of their cultural sites intact and allowing that to persist and to continue, that helped Japan become peaceful. Whereas otherwise they would have felt like they need to rebel, and 10, 20 years later, just like with World War I Germany, that all of a sudden you'd have a new resurgence of, that kind of stuff. So anyways, long, way to say that leaving the emperor in does have a history, but I just question it in this circumstance, especially because we've personally seen Gestahl, and I don't know, like he may have a good heart, but sure, do whatever you're going to do, but somebody else needs to be in charge, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't be the one in charge of all of this, because even Locke himself, after this conversation, he says like, that guy's, I smell a rat. I smell a rat is what he
They're
says.
suspicious of him.
Well, and so it's like, okay, if you're at all suspicious, like you need to talk to someone else. Put General Leo or even Celeste. Have
General
somebody
Leo's a good
else.
candidate,
Have somebody else lead at least for this temporary period, while we try to assess what was happening and whether or not Kefka is just the fall guy for what Gestahl actually wanted.
Right. Good points. Gestahl says, friends, let us speak over dinner tonight. So let's get into that.
Yeah. He says, imagine all of us here sharing a meal. And this is great because sharing a meal is a symbol of unity, right? Like when you eat together, this is the old saying, you are what you eat, right? But then if you and I eat the same food, then we are made of the same thing, right? Like this thing is like, we gain like an aspect of unity in that regard. And just whenever you invite people over and you have a meal with them, there's something special about eating with people.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel connected in a certain way. Yeah. So it is a big deal. And often these like big government summits will have a meal, that's like a big part of it.
Yep.
It's it's good.
So that evening, a banquet was held with the emperor. And Sid says, I'll sit with the returners if that's all right. So he comes to our side of the table, which I thought was interesting. Sid sits with us on our side of the table instead of over there. Gestahl says at last we can all be together, sharing a meal at this same table. Let us make a toast. To what shall we raise our glasses? So there's 3 options. And generally during these, if you want like the best result from all of this,
I
you want to
didn't know what to
choose
say.
the most neutral of the options.
That's
so
kind of what I was doing.
Not the one that favors
one side,
the empire too much, not one that favors the returners too much, but one that's sort of between them, which is kind of another abstract way of trying to compromise or negotiate.
That's true. That's a good point.
Which
Actually,
is
that's
kind
good.
of cool.
That's a cool.
I kind of like that. Yeah. So upon selecting to the empire, right? To the empire, or to the returners, or to our homelands. So to our homelands would be
our hometowns.
Neutral.
Is, I think what this.
Neutral option. So that's generally the one you want to go with in these scenes.
Yeah.
As you may know, I've imprisoned Kefka for his crime of using poison against Doma. What do you think should be done to him? So leave him in jail, pardon him, or execute him. So obviously, execute and pardon are the extremes.
So leave him in jail. And I think that's what I said. I think I more or less did this intuitively.
Yeah, just kind of went the neutral sort of path. I see. Well, let him stew in his cell for a while. Then we can decide what to do. Then he says, I'm truly sorry about what occurred in Doma. No one ever dreamed Kefka would use poison. So you can say what's done is done, which is obviously...
Pro-Empire.
Pro-Empire.
Yeah.
That was inexcusable. Or apologize again. This one's a little harder to tell which one is the in between. But that was inexcusable is the kind of middle option. Rather than saying apologize again, like I'll make you say it again, sense. Like we're going to like rub it in your face.
It's more direct. Yeah.
Right. Then he says, I'm terribly sorry about what was done. I promise to punish Kefka severely and to work to eradicate poisons all over the world.
Wait, I don't think that was in the SNES version.
I don't think it was either, but it's that's funny.
It's a poison disarmament. It's a noble cause. Well, the returners will destroy their poison if the Empire destroys its poison. The trouble is, there are legitimate uses for poison. So.
Oh, man, that's funny. By the way, with regard to General Celeste, was she an Imperial spy? Celeste is one of us, or we trust her whether she spied or not. So the middle option is Celeste is one of us. And he says, Kefka was lying. Celeste realized the lunacy of this war long before I did and went over to your side. Was there anything else you wanted to know? So he confirms that she was not spying. Right. Is there anything else you wanted to ask? You can ask him about a couple things, like, why did you start the war? He says, it was all a result of my foolish lust for power. I've come to my senses now. The second option, why do you want peace now? Because I now believe that working together is our only hope, which makes sense because freaking devastated his whole city.
It's true. And this is one of the things I wrote down in my notes here. I said, Gestahl so doesn't seem deserving of mercy, but his people are probably deserving of mercy.
Right.
And you can do one thing to just like, try to get the emperor and be like, hi, like you guys we're going to put all these sanctions on and we're going to make sure that your people aren't doing well because of what you did. But that's punishing the people who are not guilty parties.
Yeah. Gestahl, the last question is, why did we have to talk to your men? He says, some of my men still do not believe we should have ended the war. I felt they might better understand if they could meet you face to face.
I don't understand that, actually. I don't understand
that.
Well,
I do in the sense that the soldiers would realize, because particularly I would think, and anybody who's been in the military, correct me if I'm wrong, but like let's just use I don't know, propaganda as an example. People are sort of led to believe that their enemies are these monsters, and
that's true.
And when you actually go see their culture and see these people face to face, you realize they're just people like you.
I see where you're going now.
They're
makes
good
sense.
people or whatever.
Yeah,
so I think that's what he's trying to mean with that line. Is like if you go talk to them, they'll see you not the way we told them you were in our propaganda, but the way that you really are.
You know what would be more powerful though is if the emperor went to them face to face and said, "We lied to you."
Yes, right. He should be the one saying it, not them.
Like what you're saying is true, but it's like the empire should be the one. Anyways, whatever.
But
Gets us to do that
Gestahl's
for him.
prideful. He doesn't want to stoop to that level of problem.
Yeah.
So after he answers all those questions for you, he says, "With your permission, I'd like to move on to discussing the espers." So you could say I have a few things to ask and go back and ask all three of those. It just gives you an option to continue asking questions or not. And then he says, the Empire has been decimated by the espers that emerged from the sealed gate. They're just too powerful. If we don't do something, they'll tear the entire world apart. And then you can say, they've gone a bit too far. You're the one who brought them here in the first place. And he says, when the espers came through on their rampage, all of my ambitions faded in an instant. Now I find myself asking why I ever wanted that much power in the first place. Of course, there's no excuse for the atrocities I committed in the name of conquest. By the way, what was that first question you asked me a minute ago?
I thought this was like a trick question. You need to answer it correctly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds really funny and out of place. And it is.
It's just for the perfect ending.
I believe that the reason that they do this is to get young readers to pay attention to the text. Right? It's like kids might get bored and be trying to skip through all this, right? Like, I don't want to talk. I just want to play the game again.
Right.
I feel like this is almost kind of a way of getting you to hey, reading this is important. You got to pay attention to the story.
Nice.
Almost kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Because, it's just such a non sequitur. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. Oh, by the way, what was that thing you said a minute ago? So I think they're just trying to get kids to pay attention to
That makes sense.
But
the collector here is talking about on Patreon. He's talking about how he was in the military and there was similar propaganda about Muslims when he was fighting in the Middle East.
That's what I was thinking.
And it was like, they are, well, I don't want to repeat the propaganda, but they are monstrous people, right?
Yes.
And of course, once he got there and met many of them, he realized that they're people just like you and me.
Yes.
And that through meeting them, he was able to not buy into that propaganda. So thank you, the collector, and thank you for your service as well, I suppose.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking about, actually. And I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking about Iraq War. I was thinking about that time period, the way that through the news,
the way people are
told to think,
dehumanized.
Yeah, you're dehumanizing and demonizing a whole culture of people, right? Yeah. And whether or not you think that there's a problem in that culture due to some of the extremist sects of the religion or whatever there might be, the people, the far majority of them are great, wonderful, peaceful, kind, normal human beings, just like the rest of us who deserve every chance at happiness that we do. But when you're getting fed through the news all of this, it can, the point is when you meet them face to face, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's important to meet them face to face and to see them as human beings, humanize them again. I think that's what he was going for with that line. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. You must be getting tired. Why don't we take a short break? You need to take the break if you want.
And that was Sid.
Yeah. If you want to actually get the best ending to all this, you go talk to a guy on the other side. He's like, hey, battle me. I want practice.
Oh, yeah. I talked, to them. I thought that was great.
You kind of resume the talks again after that.
That's like, you're tired. You should take a break and you go and battle and sit back down. Okay, I got my rest.
Yeah. We'd like to test your strength.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see.
And then they say, as expected.
Yeah, just
afterwards.
as we thought.
Yeah.
Resume the conversation. When the banquet continues, either after the ending, the break, whatever the break, Gestahl says, is there anything you want to hear me say? So you can say that you really want peace, that the war is truly over, or that you're sorry. That one's a little harder to tell, like, what's the neutral option there, right? But it is that the war is truly over. All right, I swear right here now that there will be no more fighting. And now I have a favor to ask. He says, after they attacked us, the Espers flew off northward towards Crescent Island. We have no way of knowing when they'll decide to go on another rampage. We need to find them and convince them to set aside their aggression before that happens. But considering all that the Empire has done for them, or to them, I doubt they'll be willing to listen to us. That's why I need to borrow Terra's power. So once again, they need Terra to talk to the Espers and to convince them not to kill everybody.
I know, and this is like, at some point, I don't know that their plan is working super well, right? At some point, it's like, hey, Terra, go talk to the Esper. It's not working. She turned into a Esper herself. Okay, Terra, now go talk to them again. They destroyed the world. Okay, go talk to her a third time. Anyways, it's seems like this one plan of using Terra to solve all the problems isn't the best plan.
Not exactly even coming close to working one time.
Not even close to working
been kind
one
of the
time.
opposite.
Yeah,
it's actually made it worse almost every time. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much where we can leave off for this week. I know he kind of calls out General Leo and Celeste, and we'll talk to them a little bit next time. They get on a ship and they go together to go and try and talk to the Espers. So
okay.
I would say that for next time, where you'll want to play up to, without spoiling anything, is, I'll call it the floating continent. There's a dungeon, the floating continent. You'll kind of come to the end of that and fight the boss and see the big scene at the end of that part where you go up, well, you take the airship up to a floating continent and you do a dungeon there. That's all I will say to avoid spoilers. But play up through the end of that scene, and that will lead us to about the half-ish way mark of the game. So,
and what episode will that be? What episode is this? Is this 6?
I think this is 6.
So that'll be 7, so probably looking at 13, 14.
That being said, when I say that, there could be less story
you're right.
and more game
Yeah.
in the second half of the game.
True.
So
we may
might
still
not
hit
end up being
12-ish.
12. It might be more like 10, but we'll find out.
Cool. Gotcha.
But that's where to play up to for next time. So thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this so far, and we will see you again next week. Peace out.